In this next video, we are continuing to look at control structures, but first we're going to talk about some of the booleans that we have seen so far. We've used is clear, is net, is flour, and is water. And for the relative direction part, we used right, left, ahead, and here. Now, some of the other methods that are out there that we could use is Giroux, which is looking to see if there's a Giroux in the direction that we are moving. Has flour, meaning does he have flowers on him that he could use, and is facing, and that's which direction he is facing at the time. Now, we're going to use some while loops for looping, so we could do many steps with a minimum of lines. And then today, we're going to look at the if statement, and that it's also a conditional with Giroux. Okay, so we've used while statements before, so now we're going to look at if statements. So what I need you to do is create this world. It needs to look something like this. It doesn't have to be exactly. You're just making a row of nets, and you're keeping all the nets in row 0, and you're keeping cell 00 empty. Then you're going to copy the code that is right here in the main method, and you are going to paste that into your Giroux program and save it as net row. So I'm going to come over here. I just copied mine and put it in here, and I'm going to do a save as, and I'm going to name this net row, and I'm going to click save, and then I'm going to do a save as on my island, and I'm going to name it net row, and I am going to save it. Okay, so if we were to run this right now, it says if Bob.isNet ahead, he is going to need to toss a flower, and then he will hop. So let's go ahead and run this. So we look, it says if there's a net ahead, toss, he tosses, and then he hops, and he'll keep going. There's no row, there's nothing ahead of him, so he doesn't do anything, so we end. So we need to fix that. Okay, now one of the things I want you to notice in our program, it says programmers use the indent to help keep track of the program. This is extremely important when we get to Java, because we do use a lot of indentation in Java. So if you look, we have our if statement, and we put our braces underneath the first. You go past the if, and then you put in your braces, and you move it over 5 spaces, and it says, you know, this brace must be here. Then underneath that, you put your bob.toss, and then you move your braces over again so that it is indented 5 spaces. So if we look over here, that's how this one is. We've got our indentation so that we can read that. It doesn't have to be quite that far. When you're building on a web page and then copying and pasting, sometimes it does move stuff over further than you want it to. But, you know, you can always fix that. But you will use the indentation a lot in Java. All right, so now this program is basically starting, Bob is starting with 23 flowers in his sack, the most he could ever need, because there's only, remember, it's a row of 24 cells, and we are in cell 00, so that takes one of those rows away. So the most he would ever need is 23 flowers. He's going to be looking ahead of him. If there is a net, he is going to toss a flower, then he hops forward 1 cell safely. If the conditional is false, that's the red part, he skips the red part between the braces and just hops. To make Giroux go across the screen, you need a lot of those conditionals and a lot of hops. And of these, it requires 6 lines. That would make your program over 120 lines long. So please don't do that. We're not going to do that. So let's look down a little bit further and see what we are going to do. Since we're going to create a Giroux method called row move. We're going to click on the Giroux method tab, copy and paste this. So we're just going to copy this right here. We're going to come over to our Giroux method, and we are going to paste that in. Okay, so in our Giroux method, we're going to say if there is a net ahead of him, he's going to toss, then he's going to hop. So if is net ahead, toss, then hop. Okay, so what we want to do is go into the main method and erase all the code we have in the main method and copy the bob.rowMove. So we're going to copy that. and we are going to come back over to our main method. We're going to erase all of this, and we're going to put in our row move, and I want you to put it in twice. Okay, so now we're going to run continuously, and as you can see, he hopped 2 times, right? So let's slow it down a little. Let's put it on 2 so we can see how it works. And if you run it continuously, there it goes to row move, and it's looking, and then it comes back and it goes back over to the main method, looks at row move again, and then tosses. So it says try the program. If you wanted Bob to move across the screen all the way, you would need to add 23 row moves. So don't do that. Remember, that's a bunch of row moves that we're going to be putting in there. We don't want to do that every time. If you're going to have to repeat an action, you can use a while loop. Okay, we can move across by adding a while loop. It is not perfect because Bob lands in the water, but try this. So we're going to copy this. We're going to come back over, and then we are going to rewind our program first. Sorry about that. Rewind. Paste this in, and now we have while Bob dot is water to his left, row move. And we're going to go ahead and pop this over to 4 so we can see it run continuously. And he's going to go, and every time he needs to toss a flower, he tosses a flower, and then he hops, and then he tosses flowers, and he hops, and he goes all the way across, but in the end he is going to jump into the water because the water is still on his left side. Okay, so we're going to rewind that, and it says, can you figure out a better boolean? Don't despair. Steps to follow. Figure out how to do one small part of the program, test it, create a method if we were going to do this task many times, test the method a couple of times. If you need to use the method many times, figure out the boolean to use in the while loop. Okay, so we're going to save net row, and in the directions it says we're going to come back to that, but we're going to go ahead and do that. So save this, and we will come back to it after we look at our next lesson.